Good morning. Hey, cool. I don't have my computer. Interesting. Yeah, it is. I'm an hour late from where I want to be streaming because I've just been dealing with all kinds of annoying little issues this morning. I wonder why I can't get my PC up and running. Interesting. Oh, there we go. Oh, because I renamed my PC. All right. Whew. All right. I was going to work on my game this morning, but I have been trying to deal with something, and this is just driving me nuts. What I'm trying to do is get my coder dev environment to work with SSH, and I have some pieces of it working, but what I was trying to do is get it to where it saves the SSH ID every time it restarts. And this, I don't know what it is. I was trying to have ChatGPT help me with this, but I don't know what it is today. Like, it's just not working. And I think I've also noticed that the level of frustration that I have, it greatly impacts the ability for the AI to work, because I just get so frustrated that I can't get this thing to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with some really exciting, fun stuff, Terraform, until I can get this working. The goal of what I'm trying to do, VS Code, is that right now I'm mounting, I have this like really weird setup. I'm like, well, it's weird only because I've been too lazy to really set up SSH, but I'm hosting this project on my server, and I am simply mounting the server's drive to work with the files. But Copilot has all kinds of issues because it doesn't understand the difference between, like, these are just files versus the server, and it wants to run commands. So the only way to fix this, at least I believe, is to connect to a project over SSH in Visual Studio Code, mounted as if it's a local file, and then I want to see if ChatGPT can work with it, or Copilot, or whatever I'm using at the moment. So this just creates a whole bunch of like weird problems, and I think I just closed that out. So okay, so what I'm stuck doing here, and let me open up. I'm actually going to mount my server. No, this is the wrong workspace. This workspace, and oh cool, I don't have, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way. Do I have git bash? SSH nas at studio nas.local. I don't have my cd docker. SSH. Actually, let me go to the SSH folder. cd host keys ls. Okay, so the problem that I'm having is this. I need to mount this folder into the parent container that's running everything, because Coder is running in a container, and then I need to mount this into the Docker container for the workspace itself. And so I have like a rough example of this, and I'm already sort of doing it here with the workspace. And what's going on is that I am mounting this to the root of Coder so that I can access it. Because what happens is that when Terraform is running in the scope of Coder, it only has access to whatever Coder has access to. And since Coder is not running actually on my server, it doesn't. I have to like mount things from my server into here. And the thing that's making this more frustrating than it already is because oh my god, there's so much stuff in here. What am I trying to figure out? It's that in some places I'm actually able to access the server directly. Like here I can create paths, but for some reason I can't I still get really confused as to like, oh, I know what it is. Sorry, I remember now. The issue is that Docker runs on the host system. So Docker has access to these paths that are the system paths, but the container inside of Docker does not. And I need to map these things over. So what I'm trying to get to is a point where what should really happen is this. I should be able to mount this point, and this will create this directory for me. Now, where I'm seeing it's failing is that in this resource, where is my resource for creating? It's supposed to be creating it here, and I don't see it making that file. So, and it's interesting because I'm trying to mirror exactly what I did for the workspace, and this is something that's been confusing me a lot because I mean, it's like Docker inside of Docker. There's a lot of like layering going on. It's like one of those like Russian dolls where you like open it up and like more Docker containers pop out. Let's build this and see what happens. So the goal is, what should happen is you should take the project's name and it should create the project in the host files folder, which right now just says test. So let's publish this. I forgot what version I was on. 23. All right, we're going to publish this v24. And then we're going to update and restart this workspace. So this workspace is just dedicated to, I'm just using a generic node template that I have, and I'm just trying to get SSH access. So I have been able to SSH into it. I sort of solved that problem, but this is the issue that I'm running into. Right now, it's an invalid configuration for the bind because this folder doesn't exist. And what I need to figure out is, I don't know why it's any different than this. Hold on. Okay, I am back. Had to deal with a delivery. All right, so what I was trying to figure out, trying to remember where we were. We're here where it just can't make this folder. So I'm gonna go back to ChatGPT and see what is. Can you help explain how I am creating a folder for my project's code in the workspace folder from the parent Docker container and the file system which Docker has access to, and I want to produce this for, I want to reproduce this for the SSH folder, but I'm running into issues where it isn't creating the folder. Let me actually double check that for a second. Let's do a list here. Yeah, okay, so it isn't folder. The only other thing I want to do is, I'm just going to pull this up on my other computer, is I'm going to pull up the code for I'm pulling up my compose file for Coder. Here is the compose file for Coder. Docker is running natively on the OS, so has access to the OS folders. And this is my, I'll set this thing, and this is my Terraform template. All right, so finally, this is the error I am getting. I'm hoping I can solve this in an hour. I do not want to be sitting here doing this for the entire stream. This is like, there's a reason why it's been a couple of months since I've actually sat down and do this, because it's just, this is not my favorite thing to do. So let's have this thing think through this. Just realized there was an email that I missed responding to yesterday. Ugh, opening up the wrong windows. I've just been having, I just can't get like traction this week for some reason. So it's funny, like I feel like I was in such a good groove before I went away to California like 2 weeks ago, and now I just can't get my act together. Here we go. Good. All right, I want this email. So, it's still thinking. So while it does this thinking, I will try to figure out how to get this working on my end for this meeting I have to set up, which is always exciting. So alright, I wish this, I'm hoping that this thinking means it's actually going to like complete this. Fixing folder creation and mounting issues. The other thing I wanted to see, maybe I can just pull this up here anyways. Whoops. Where's my studio? NAS. I'll just pull up this computer too, in case there's something I need to do here. So I want to look back through and see what these binds are, because this bind goes to this workspace. This bind goes to the templates, but I'm not, that's something else. And so this bind should go to host keys inside of this container. And where's the Docker container? Wait, I don't need that. I think I can do it here. Where's coder? Coder. I wanted to connect. Is that not a... Here, I'll just look at the files. Workspace, host keys is here, which is mounted. And I see this test stuff. So, all right, so something is not passing this down the chain to my coder dev environment. And that's what we need to figure out. I will do this. I'm going to take a screenshot of... wait, let me disconnect. Immersion mode. Alright, so let's get rid of this. Oh, why is it taking so long? Is this like a new feature of ChatGPT 5 where it just doesn't want to give an answer? Alright, just give me the answer at this point. I think right now your workspace creation folders, you could have parent doc. You bind mount a real host path. Creating the workspace. When the child workspace container is started, it also binds mounts from there, host to workspace. That works for the host path file. For your SSH keys file, the problem is that /host does not exist on the host before the workspace container is created. Host keys. Am I spelling this wrong or something? Host keys. This exists. Alright. It only exists as a bind mount target inside the parent container. But host keys isn't a real path on the host. It only exists as a bind mount target inside the... Why Docker storing this error? Fix. You need to create the directory on the host, not inside the container's name. But why is this one different than the... Alright, I'll give you a try. Like, I don't understand why this one works and this one doesn't, but I don't. Host keys, Docker, SSH, NAS. Print working directory. Users, NAS, coder, Docker, SSH, host keys. All right, let's build this out and try this again. Success would be if we get a. Success would be if we get the folder. We're going to make this version 25. And now that should have been saved. So now we can retry booting up this workspace again. And invalid configuration of the bind source path does not exist. Right, okay, this is what I'm telling it though. Okay. Confirm the coder Docker container has access to the host keys folder. And changing the path like this will not work because the Terraform resource does not know about the full system path Docker has access to. Changes the path like this. Will not work. Okay. This is a similar issue as the workspace, so I don't understand how that one works, but this doesn't. All right, let's see what it has to say about that, because parsec. If I go and I look in my Studio Mac and I look back at this connection, these are all mount points. This has access to all the workspaces. This has access to my templates. So there's no reason why this shouldn't work. Terraform's null resource runs with command make directory inside the parent container, so it creates child workspace container, then bind mounts that. In the Docker Compose, you mount inside the parent container. Terraform's null resource runs with command. So the folder is created inside the container bind mount, which does create the host folder correctly but your Docker container workspace mount for host keys points to. Oh my god, I'm going to scream. You need the SSH folder to exist on the host before Terraform creates the child workspace container. Create it from Terraform on the host. But I mount the workspace folder, the null resource creates a project folder in the mounted workspace, and then the Docker instance binds to that. All right? Short answers only. Yes, exactly. The workspace. All right. The SSH flow point, the SSH mount path in the child container is so. How do I fix this? Because the workspace is doing this. I still don't understand the difference between the workspace and mounting like this. I wonder if this is being mounted as a read-only. So why wouldn't doing the same thing for the SSH folder work? I want to try one thing real quick. I'm going to make this read-only false. I don't know if it automatically loads it as read-only. Where is the resource? Ensure SSH. Host keys. These are literally the same thing. Let me build this real quick and just see if I'm crazy. Publish v26. We will update and restart. And I want to see what this error is. Invalid mount config for type bind. Bind source path does not exist. All right. Docker container workspace. So in the Docker container workspace, just trying to see if there's something in here that I'm missing. Print working directory. Sometimes I wind up with like a spelling error and then my brain can't like figure that out. But this is spelled correctly. Maybe I need to do this. We'll do depends on. Alright, this will be my last stab at this and I'll go back to ChatGPT. Sometimes what I've noticed, like when I get really frustrated, like I can't figure out how to communicate to ChatGPT, and then like my frustration becomes its frustration, and then we like sort of spiral out of control together. All right, the real question is, why is this not running? I'm going to copy over some more of this stuff here. Ensure SSH. I don't think running because it's not creating the folder. Oops, folder like the workspace one. What am I still missing? Host keys in your is also inside the coder parent container. Fine. It's bind mounted to on the host, but Terraform processes that's creating the child container is running on the host, not inside the parent container. When Terraform gets to Docker container.workspace, it checks that host path exists before starting the container. If an ensure SSH folder didn't run or ran too late, the folder isn't there yet, so you're getting a bind source path error. The key points: your ensure workspace runs before the workspace container creation, but your ensure probably isn't running early enough in the plan apply sequence, or it's not the right dependency chain. Quick fix: make the SSH folder creation run before the container is created and on the host. All right, I think I see what it's trying to get at. I still don't understand this at all. Like, I still don't get like why one mounting is different than the other. Let's get rid of that because it already works. Let's build this out now and we'll create a new version. And then we will update and restart. All right. From the daemon, invalid mount config for type bind. The source does not exist. Now let's do this. All right. I don't get it. Why does work? How can I replicate exactly what the workspace is doing? Here are the core differences you're missing. The workspace folder creation works because the make directory is happening inside the coder parent container, and workspace there is already a bind mount. SSH directory isn't reproducing the same chain. Why workspace works? Mounts. Host keys inside the parent. Terraform runs. This breaks the replicate inside parent container pattern, so you're no longer using the same flow. But I was doing that before. Provisioner localhost. Okay. Dude, I was doing this before. All right, fine. We'll go back to this. If you want, I can give you a drop-in replacement block so that the ensure workspace. But I was doing this before. Alright, let's just see if maybe this is the weird one time where this actually works. V29. Then the missing piece isn't in the Docker execution itself, it's when Terraform is running. For slash workspace, your ensure workspace is naturally in the dependency chain before, because the container can't mount until the host folder exists. Docker exec. That happens because the host folder check is done during plan apply pre-flight before running. To truly match the workspace flow, you have to create slash hotkeys inside coder before the host path check happens. Then make sure that the host sees it immediately. That means keep the Docker executed, add local exec right after that, which also runs. Give you a drop-in. You keep saying you give me a drop-in thing, but for parsec. This still isn't making sense. I already have a slash host keys in the coder container. It's mapped from print working directory to slash host keys. Right, this is host keys. Host keys. If I create the workspace and use the console in the workspace, I can see the slash host keys is being passed down into the workspace container. So by that logic, isn't this working exactly? Whoops. Same workspace? Like, is there anything special that this bind mount is doing for the workspace that I'm missing here? It's just a regular mount. Really need you to think through what the solution is, because you keep flipping back and forth with me mounting slash host keys or which the workspace folder creation does not do. If you're just joining in, I'm having some trouble dealing with SSH in Coder and Terraform. So it's not the most exciting morning of coding, but I've been putting this off for months now. And my hope is that if I could just figure this thing out, it'll make all my other development go a lot faster. But it is It is time consuming and not fun. Because what I'm interested in, like, let me try this for a second. If I go here, you know what? I think I have another approach to this. I think the way that I need to do it is I need to just create this folder in the same volume as. Let me try that. ChatGPT. The mounting of the host keys folder continues to give me errors. I am creating a volume to store node packages, so it's not on my local computer. Can I park the SSH info in there? And can I park the SSH info in there and reference it? Or does that volume get destroyed when I restart the workspace? All right, I want to see what it thinks about there. This is still, I mean, this is like ridiculous. Oh, here we go. For 3 minutes it thought. You're binding a subfolder for SSH that doesn't exist yet when Docker creates the workspace container. Runs before Docker container, reruns when the name changes. Resource Docker container. Avoid the race. Mount parent directory. Then in the startup script. Yeah, this was my other thinking. Either way, Docker sees a real host path. This was my other thinking, was to short answer, yes. Using named Docker volume for your SSH host keys. Named volumes persist across restarts. They're only removed if you Terraform destroy or Docker volume remove. If you want extra safety, add prevent destroy below or drop-in changes to make your host identity stable. Why can't I use these same volume as the node modules? I don't want lots of volumes for each container. That makes it difficult to remove later on. when I have multiple I think like what I want to do, no, in your current setup, it's one named volume, Docker volume deps, mounted at opt deps with each node module path bind mounted to its own subfolder inside the single volume. So that's what I want to do. I want to create a opt deps SSH and mount that to the SSH folder for the coder user. All right, got it. I think this is the easier way to do this. Because technically, I don't really need to save all these SSH keys. Like, they're no different than, like, I can just rebuild it and reconnect the project. So I'm trying to, I do want to avoid some of that stuff. You could do that with your existing Docker volume diff, so there's only one persistent volume. Here's the minimal change. Inside the startup script before the SSH startup. Why not just so there's a lot of these things like I just don't really know. You can skip the symlink entirely and mount it straight into Docker workspace, something like this. Yeah, there's these weird things. Like, I mean, I guess it's like everything in programming. Like, you can just do this like so many different ways, but it's never clear to me in Docker like what the right pattern is. Docker volume, single shared. So let me see here. I want to see. This is the make public locals down here. Mount the single dips volume once. And then here, what I do is just mount this folder inside of here. I think this is the easier way to do it. Because then I can get rid of this garbage. I can get rid of this. And I can get rid of this. And I can get rid of this here. All right. V30. I think 30 is the magic number, right? Like third time's the charm. 30 is the charm. Publish V30. All right, and now we will update and restart this. Invalid mode. Bind path does not exist. Did I also need to do... All right, let me give it the template back and see if it can figure out what I did wrong here. Getting error because it's in your mounts block is inside the container, not on the host. When Terraform Docker tries to start the container, it looks for on the host system and doesn't find it, so it fails before the container even starts. Right, okay, the container is created, then the binding happens, Insert the mount block in your Terraform resource is a Docker runtime bind mount from host container. If you want to keep the SSH inside the same Docker dev folder, you can't bind a subfolder of a named volume directly without jumping through hoops. Two workable options. Symlink inside of the container. Right. Now persists and part of the same volume as node. Mount the whole volume twice. Mount the same name volume into... The drawback, this mounts the whole volume to both paths. We'll see everything in... You need to manage it carefully to avoid clutter. Well, I don't know. I think I'm fine with that. I guess let's just do the symlink. I think the symlink is the easier one to understand. Oh wait, sorry, I was in the wrong tabs here. So symlink inside the container, simplest, no new volumes. Leave your Docker volume depths mount as is. And then the startup script, fine. All right, let's just see if this works. So, just trying to find the most logical place to put this. All right, so we'll do this. I don't think this is going to work. If it does work, I'd be pleasantly surprised, that's for sure. Yep, that doesn't work. SSH. I wonder, like, do I even need... Funny, I had like such a whole different plan for today. I might actually stream again after lunch and do some pixel art stuff, which would be a little bit more relaxing. But before I do that, I really need to get this working. So this is my focus for the moment. You're still getting that error because the problem isn't in your startup script. It's in the part of your Docker container resource. Inside the same named volumes. Let me try this. Symlink inside the container. One volume, no failing bind. Remove this .ssh mount entirely. Remove this. SSH port, resources, mount. All right, so it's saying we don't need this mount anymore. Here. 32. All right, come on. Feeling like this is going to be the one, right? Find. Okay, workspace module. Listening on that. Okay, so now we can do parsec. I'm going to go back into my studio NAS. And then what I'm going to look for is I'm going to remove this in a minute. I want to see these volumes. How do I know which volume is? How do I know which volume is which? All right, here, I'm assuming that this one is front end, back end. I don't know much about how volumes work. I need to ask ChatGPT something because is there a way of to match the in your config, the volume is not auto-generated by Docker. You explicitly naming it me ID deeps. Oh. I don't want that. That's not good. Yeah, let's fix that. This should actually be single shared. What is this volume? Why is there a home? I didn't really pay attention to this. What? Let's see, what is this one doing? Your persistent home directory volume. If you didn't have this, coder would. So isn't the key in there too? So this is a waste of time. So moving it to buys you nothing. The only real persistent gap is the server. The only real persistence gap is the server-side host key. if you care about keeping the same SSH server fingerprint between workspace, it's the only. Yes, that is what I am trying to do. All right, got it. If your goal is to persist the SSH server host keys, the easiest fix is to mount a named volume there. You can reuse your pattern and keep it predictable, then mount it in your workspace container, and in your startup script make it. What does that word mean? Denoting an element of a set which is unchanged in the value of multiply. Okay. Do you want me to rewrite your SSH? Before we do this, is it normal to have all these one-off volumes? Or would it make sense to have a single volume for all of this attached to the container? It's normal in Docker setups to see one-off named volumes for different purposes, especially when you want to move data around or wipe one area without touching another. But for dev workspaces like yours, having one big persistent volume for all state is totally fine and a lot easier to manage. In your case, the SSH key, if you want everything persistent in one volume, you could just use home volume for volume. Yes, this is what I want. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. This may not have been a total waste of my morning. Okay, help me rebuild or refactor this template so that each workspace has its own persistent volume named after the workspace itself and store the SSH fingerprint SSH folder could live in the same volume as home and depths in their own node module. Wait, there's a disconnect here. Hold on. I am not making SSH keys unless I'm missing something in the template. I just want the workspace to have the same fingerprint between restarts so I don't have to destroy Alright, just want to make sure, because you don't care about generating new keys at all. You just want the SSH server's host keys, which are what controls the fingerprint, to live somewhere persistent so they don't change between container restarts. Right now, because it's inferior in your container, those keys are regenerated every time you restart, which changes the fingerprint and forces the VS Code to prompt you again. The minimal fix. You just need to mount a persistent location to survive, so it survives the container restarts. No extra generation logic is required. The first time the container runs, SSHD will create them and then they'll remain in the volume. So that's it. Okay. If you prefer one-off volumes, you can also... Alright. Okay, help me refactor this Terraform template. so that each workspace has its own persistent volume named after the workspace itself, not the ID, and store the SSH folder, the node modules, and whatever else the other volume was doing. Where did I want to? Let me give it this template. Just give me the full template back. All right, let's see if it can generate out this whole template for me. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask, and I was going to do a, whoops, I wanted to do chat GPT. I'll just do this little one. In Docker, actually, I don't need to make it transparent. I don't need to make it. In Docker, can different containers access the same volume? Yes, multiple containers should share the same volume in Docker. They just need to mount the same name volume or bind mount path, and changes in one container will be visible to the others in real time. All right, that's interesting. I think the other step that I want to do, now that I'm in here and like messing with this, is that I want to consolidate the way that the Trafic stuff works too, because I have a volume that I'm mounting. I actually think I don't really understand volumes that well. Like, I mean, I get them conceptually, but not like in these sort of more advanced situations. So what I need to figure out, wait, this can't be the whole thing, is it? Dude, I hate when it does this. It's like now I got to go figure out what it cut out. What did it forget to do? What's missing in my shorter version of the original is mostly the Terraform parameters labels. Oh my god, but I asked you to... I want the complete template back. Follow directions. All right. Can you look at how I'm sharing? Oh no, wait. You know what? Wait, no. Yeah, maybe sharing Trafic creds between containers and see if it would make more sense to have a shared volume instead of a folder on my desktop.
Good night. Good night.
Here's the template, and here is the compose. Am I still in Parsec? Great. I need to open up I can't reach the whatever, I'll just do it this way. Applications, I can't reach the dock. It's fighting with, actually I'll just make this smaller. Where's VS Code? I want this whole thing. And then going back into here, here's the compose running the entire coder. All right, let's see if this works a little bit better. Yes, use the name Docker volume for switching. It removes the host path dependency and clearly shares creds between traffic and all the workspaces. Docker compose changes, create a mount, a shared volume. Terraform, define the same name volume and mount it. Keep your current dynamic file layout. Permissions and one-liner stay. This is fine. Okay, this is the next thing that I want to do. Is this traffic stuff. I'm gonna change my desk real quick. I will be right back. All right, let's see if I can wrap this up before lunch, and then I will come back and do the game stuff. So, all right, God, you didn't do it this whole time? This should still be the node workspace template you've been using, right? Yes. I want you to combine the volumes. All right, let's see if we can get it to do it this way now. Sometimes the problems that I have with giving ChatGPT like a large task like this is that it winds up just like truncating stuff, and then it tells you that it gave you everything, but I can compare the lines and I can see that like it's just completely different. So I'm just trying to get this to actually do this. Sometimes I use the canvas. Only for SSH port is said. Wait, what was this big? Where was that big comment of like? Single precision volume layout. All right. Right, this is looking substantially larger, or longer. So let's see, single volume per workspace. Mounts. Single precision volume mount, Docker volume. Symlinked in the startup script. All right, so one quick question I have. So this mounts will name the volume just like the workspace. Name. Should we add a suffix to it, or it's okay if the volume and the container have the same name? Oh, It's fine if the volume name matches the workspace name. Docker doesn't care, and since volumes and containers are separate object types, there's no naming conflict. That said, most people add a short prefix like -home or data, so it's obvious in Docker volumes ls what the volume is for. Okay, so let's do this. Paste this in here. What is a good suffix for this use case? Generic but makes the purpose obvious. I'm gonna go with persist for right now. Volume. How do I add? Is it like this? Not quite. Docker is already the final name of the volume, so adding the... Actual Docker name, you set it in the name attribute. Resource volume Docker. Wait, what? Why do I... I see. I see what it's saying. What it's saying is that I need to set the name here. Oh, all right. It already has data in it. Okay, okay. I see now what it's doing. All right, let's just build this out. So this is V33. Shoot. I hate when it does this. All right. Use a single line block for options. Let's see if that fixes it. Please just compile. V33, publish, and now we are going to update and restart this. I can already tell I'm hungry. My stomach's growling. All right, it's already giving me some kind of warning. What is this error? What is causing this error? Alright, I was going to speed it up, but I actually wanted to figure out the real solution here. Oh man. With all this waiting, it better actually work. Just give me the answer. That error happens because it's bound from your Docker volume, so the directory itself is in. What is trying to delete this folder in our I think this is yes, that error isn't coming from Docker itself. It's something in your startup script inside the template that tries to reset the workspace by wiping before installing code server. In your older template, that path was a bind mount to the desktop. Wiping it made sense when you want to create a new volume. If you want, I can give you a full fixed template where just give me the patch. Did not spell any of those words correctly. Restore the original desktop bind mount. It's already here. RM. If you're not explicitly deleting oh man, it really screwed this up. Alright, I think I'm going to have lunch and do this off the stream. This is not a very productive stream. I'm going to come back later today and do some actual... I have to do some pixel art for my game, so we'll try to pick this up later today. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I will try to stream this afternoon.